Game 1, Western Conference Finals, Oklahoma City Thunder. De'Aaron Fox is out with an ankle injury. The Spurs are starting a rookie, but not just any rookie. A kid who averaged 22 minutes a night during the regular season, a second overall pick who spent his entire first year coming off the bench quietly, while the rest of his draft class was making headlines somewhere else. Dylan Harper checks in, 20 years old, 47 minutes, double overtime, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 steals. A new single-game franchise playoff record for a franchise that has Tim Duncan, David Robinson, and Kawhi Leonard in its history. The Spurs win, and somewhere in San Antonio, a Hall of Famer who once came off the bench himself is watching and not even a little bit surprised, because Manu Ginobili warned us about Dylan Harper. Not with a press conference, not with a bold prediction that made the rounds on social media. He warned us the way the Spurs always warn you, quietly daily, in a gym where the work happens before anyone is watching. While the rest of the league was debating whether Harper belonged in this situation, Manu was in that building every single day showing him exactly how to own it. Nobody listened. They do now. Understand what Manu saw in Harper. You first have to understand why most people thought the Spurs were making a mistake. The 2025 NBA draft had a clear hierarchy. Cooper Flagg was the consensus number 1 pick, and everyone agreed on that. Harper was the consensus number 2, 6 feet 5 inches, left-handed, a jumbo lead guard out of Rutgers who averaged 19.4 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 4 assists as a true freshman, a one-and-done who did it all. His basketball IQ was off the charts. His size and length at the point guard position were rare. His ability to finish at the rim with either hand was elite. On paper, he was exactly the kind of player you build around. The problem wasn't Harper. The problem was where he was going. San Antonio already had De'Aaron Fox, a max contract, all-star point guard they traded for at the deadline and then extended before the draft. They had Stephon, the second-year guard who'd already made the all-rookie first team and was drawing comparisons to Drew Holiday. They had Victor Wembanyama as the foundational piece, a 21-year-old extraordinary basketball talent who needed playmakers around him, not more creators competing for the same space. 3 lead guards, 1 ball. The takes were immediate. Some analysts argued San Antonio should have taken a wing, a big, someone who would fit more cleanly alongside the core they already had. A few pointed out that Harper's shooting was the biggest red flag coming out of college. 33% from 3 at Rutgers, a number that suggested inconsistency and raised legitimate questions about whether he could space the floor at the highest level. Even the more positive takes were cautious. Harper was real talent. Everyone conceded that. But would he be wasted here? Would he stunt his own development coming off the bench behind Fox and Castle? Would he even get meaningful minutes? And when training camp opened and it became clear the Spurs were going to bring Harper off the bench behind 2 established starters, the skepticism only grew louder. What nobody was watching was what was happening in those daily meetings between a 19-year-old rookie and a 48-year-old Hall of Famer. Here's something you need to understand about Manu Ginobili before we go any further. Who was picked 57th. He played in Italy for 3 years before the Spurs trusted him enough to bring him over. When he arrived, Greg Popovich handed him a role off the bench and told him to own it. Not because he couldn't start. Everyone in that building knew he was good enough to start, but because the Spurs needed him to be something rarer and harder. They needed him to be the best bench player in the league night after night for more than a decade. Won 6th Man of the Year in 2008. He accepted that role with everything he had because he understood something most players never do. Your value to the team isn't defined by your position in the rotation. It's defined by what you do when you're out there. When Ginobili joined the Spurs as a special advisor in 2021, the organization described his role as player-centric development, helping young players grow on and off the court. By the time Dylan Harper arrived in the summer of 2025, Manu was ready. Harper told reporters he talked to Ginobili more than anyone else in the building every day since he'd been there. He was asking Manu the questions you'd expect a 19-year-old kid to ask the man who had done exactly what he was now being asked to do. How do you adapt to the speed of the game coming from overseas? What changed most when you turned professional? What kept you locked in? But the most important conversations weren't about the broad strokes of being an NBA player. They were specific, technical, left-handed scorer to left-handed scorer. Harper said Manu told him, if you're a lefty, you watch every lefty who has ever played in this league. Every finishing angle, every floater variation, every Euro step variation, because defenders are trained against right-handers and your left hand is your weapon, but only if you understand exactly how to use it. And then there was the mentality piece. The thing Harper kept coming back to whenever reporters asked him about their conversations. What I take the most is his mentality. It's just next game up. If you have a bad game, once you get out the shower, it's next game. Simple. Direct. Not something you read in a motivational book. Something a man who played 1,057 NBA regular season games figured out the hard way and then handed to a kid who was still figuring out how to handle a Monday night in November in Oklahoma City. And when Ginobili saw Harper embrace the sixth-man role, not grudgingly, not with the energy of someone accepting a demotion, but with genuine buy-in, he said it publicly, he was thrilled. That reaction was the warning sign, and almost nobody caught it, let's be honest, about what Dylan Harper's rookie season looked like from the outside. The Spurs were great. Wembanyama was transcendent. Castle was ascending. Fox was steady. The team won. But the conversation around Harper was almost always framed around what he wasn't doing rather than what he was, averaged 11.8 points and 3.9 assists in 22.6 minutes per game. For most second overall picks in NBA history, those numbers would be a crisis. Other rookies from the 2025 class were getting bigger minutes, splashier moments, louder headlines. Con Newpel in Charlotte was shooting the lights out. VJ Edgecombe in Philadelphia was making plays that ended up on every highlight reel. Cooper Flagg in Dallas was being talked about as a franchise cornerstone from opening night. Harper was coming off the bench in San Antonio and posting quiet, efficient lines that the box score didn't fully capture. The criticism came from everywhere, was supposed to be a top 2 pick, and he was playing fewer minutes than the sixth man of a contender is supposed to play. Reporters started asking whether the fit was working, whether the Spurs had misread the situation, whether Harper's development was being limited by a crowded backcourt that didn't give him the room he needed to grow. His father, Ron Harper, watched all of it from outside the building. He didn't say much publicly, he knew something the critics didn't. Because while the box score said 11.8 points in 22 minutes, the advanced numbers told a different story. Harper was a plus player every time he was on the floor. His feel for the game, the patience in his dribble, the way he moved without the ball and found gaps before they opened. It was drawing comparisons to a certain lefty from Argentina who had looked modest in his early box scores too. And through all of it, Harper never complained, never asked for more minutes, never sent signals through his camp that he wanted a different role. He just kept getting out of the shower and thinking about the next game. That is not a natural thing for a 19-year-old. That is something you learn from someone who did it first. The playoffs arrived and everything changed. T started gradually. Harper's minutes climbed when it mattered. His comfort level was visible in a way that's hard to describe. Like he'd been saving something all season, and now was the time to spend it. Through the first round, the Spurs were outscoring opponents by 73 points with Harper on the floor. 73 points off the bench. Then came Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals against Oklahoma City. Aaron Fox had turned his ankle. He was out. Harper wasn't just getting minutes. He was starting in the Western Conference Finals against the defending champions in double overtime, went for 24 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 7 steals and double overtime, as a rookie who'd been playing 22 minutes a night for 8 months. The 7 steals set a single-game franchise playoff record for the Spurs, became the first rookie since Magic Johnson in 1980 to record 20-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 5-plus assists, and 5-plus steals in a single playoff game. The Spurs won the series in 7. Harper closed it out with 18 points and 6 rebounds. San Antonio went to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2014 in Harper. He was the second leading scorer on the entire team in those playoffs behind only Victor Wembanyama. Off the bench at 20 years old, having played his first professional season at just 22 minutes a night, he set a new Spurs rookie record for most points in a single postseason, passing David Robinson's mark. He became the first Western Conference rookie since Magic Johnson in 1980 to record at least 250 points and 100 rebounds in a playoff run. The Ginobili comparison wasn't just something fans were saying anymore. Harper was living it in real time. The Spurs lost the 2026 Finals to the New York Knicks 4-1. That's not the end of this story, it's barely the beginning. Harper averaged 18 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 3 assists per game in the finals off the bench as a 20-year-old in his rookie season. His performance in Elimination Game 5, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, competing for 31 minutes in what had become a one-sided series. was the closing statement of a remarkable first year, led all bench players in scoring across the entire playoffs, came off the bench in every single game, never once asked for a different role. That's the thing about this story that gets lost in the draft position conversation and the minutes debate and the fit questions. The real story isn't the box score, it's what Manu Ginobili transferred to Harper before a single regular season minute had been played. Think about what Ginobili's own career required. He arrived in San Antonio as a 25-year-old and immediately came off the bench for a team with Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, averaged 7.6 points in his rookie season.